Today I went to community caring at the health centre. Steve, who runs it, is dead against what he calls the ghetto approach. What he's after is a good mix of personality difficulties as being more conducive to problem solving and a more accurate model of society generally. There's a constant flow of copy, oiling the wheels, as Steve calls it, and we're all encouraged to ventilate our problems and let our air down generally. Well, I sometimes feel a bit left out, as I've never had any particular problems. So when Steve says, "Now then, chaps and chapesses, who wants to set the ball rolling?" I get it quick, and I tell them about Mother and Mr. Turnbull. When I finish, Steve says, "Thank you, Graham, for sharing your problem with the group. Now, does anybody want to kick it around?" First off the mark is Leonard, who wonders whether Graham has sufficiently appreciated that all people can fall in love and have meaningful relationships, just like young people. Well, I suppose this is understandable coming from Leonard, as he is 65 years old. Only he's never had any meaningful relationships. He's been had up for exposing himself in Sainsbury's doorways. As Mother says, Tesco, you could understand. Then Janice chips in. "Have you been having sexual intercourse?" I said I didn't want to know. Steve says, "Why?" I said, "I don't know." So Steve says, "Maybe what we should be asking is why Graham is being so defensive about sexual intercourse." I said, "Steve, I'm not being defensive about sexual intercourse. She is my mother." Then Jackie, who's 9 parts a lesbian, chips in. "Graham, there's also a woman." I couldn't believe this. I said, "Jackie, you're an ex-battered wife. I thought you didn't believe in marriage." She said, "Graham, I believe in caring marriage." I said, "This is not caring marriage." She goes, "Graham, what's Tenerife? That's caring. All I ever got was a black eye and a day trip to Fleetwood." Then they all pile in. It's Get Graham. At the end, Steve sums up and says, "The general feeling of the meeting is that Graham could be more open." And I said, "Steve, how can I be more open? There's somebody sat outside the house watching it." I wanted to talk about only Leonard left in, and said he felt the need to talk through an incident which had occurred at the rear of British Home Store. I stood it for as long as I could, then I came home. Mother sat there, all dolled up, earrings in, chiffon scarf, lathered in makeup. "Oh," she said, "I thought you were Mr. Turnbull." I said, "No." She said, "I'll just go to the lab." She goes 3 times in the next 10 minutes. I said, "You're not getting married today, are you?" She says, "No. Listen, you asked the superstore just opened at Bingley. We thought we'd give it the once over. Frank says they've got a very good selection of suntan lotions." I said, "Mother, there's somebody watching the house." She said, "I have to get some tissues and Frank wants a little chamois for his windshield. He's promised me something called a cheeseburger. There's a cafe attached to the complex." And just then, there's a little toot on the horn and she runs to the toilet again. When she comes out, I say, "Mum, don't go, don't leave me." She says, "I'm not giving in to you, Graham, you're a grown man. Isn't the underskirt showing?" There's a little toot on the horn. And she says, "Now, read one of your magazines and make sure you take one of your tablets." I go, "Ma'am!" She says, "There's a bit of chicken in the fridge. You could be ironing those too best. Don't forget your tablets. Give us a kiss. Toodle pip." I thought I'd go upstairs and draw the curtains where they can't see me. I'm sitting in the dark, and I think I hear somebody knock on the door. I don't move, and there's another knock, louder this time, and I tell myself, as Dr. Chowdhury told me, "It's not happening, it's not happening." only it is. Somebody shouts through the letterbox. I know you're in there! Open this door! So I do. It's a woman. Hello, she says. Are you the son? I said, what? She says, are you the son? I'm the daughter. I said, have you been watching the house? She says, yes, on and off. Why? Nothing. She says, I don't know what you've got to look so suited about. I said, you'd better come in. It was after 9 when they got back. I was watching TV when I heard the car pull up outside. Oh, hello, I said. Did you have a good time? Yes. Yes, we did, thank you. Did you get your suntan lotion? I said. What suntan lotion? She says. Well, you were going to get some suntan lotion. You've forgotten. Never mind. How's Mr. Turnbull? Oh, Frank, she says. He's grand. And she goes and hangs her stuff up. I'm sure you could get to like him if you got to know him, Graham. Well, you ought to bring him in next time, I said. I will, she says. It'd be nice if we could go off together as a threesome sometimes. What have you been doing? Nothing, I said. Just sat here. You been all right? There you are, she says. I told you there was nobody watching the house. Oh, yes, there was, I said. Oh, Graham, she says, have you had a tablet? Take a tablet. I said, I don't want to take a tablet. I'll tell you who's watching the house. Mrs. Pamela Musgrave. Who, she says? Nay Turnbull, the daughter of your hubby-to-be. You haven't got a daughter, she says. Got a son down south. You haven't got a daughter. You're just making this up now. I said, I'm not making it up. And another thing I'm not making up. Mrs. Turnbull. She says, there is no Mrs. Turnbull. She's dead. And you're just saying it now. She runs so loud. I said, she's not dead. She's in a wheelchair with a broken heart. He's been having you on. When she comes back, she says, you are just saying this. And I said, phone number's on the pad. Ring it. She's disabled, as his wife. Has been for 10 years. The daughter looks after them both. Oh, you're not the first. He's always doing it. The last one, it was going to be Barbados. Yeah, you were spotted together at Bolton Abbey. A well-wisher. Tenerife. Later on, I brought her up a cup of tea. She'd been crying. I bought this little bed jacket, she said. I'm sorry, ma'am, I said. Oh, it's right enough. What else can you expect at my age? How old am I? 72, I said. That's another thing. I can remember with him. I can't remember with you. I said, I'm sorry, ma'am. She says, sorry? How are you sorry? You never liked him. I said, he's not good enough for you. She said, I'll be the judge of that. He was natty. Mother could be said for you. And she burst out crying again. I said, I understand, ma'am. She says, understand? You? How do you understand? You're not normal, you are. I said, I'm going to bed. Later on, she comes shouting outside my bedroom door. She says, you think you've got it over me, Graham? I said, well, you haven't. I've got it over you. I said, go back to bed. She says, I know the kind of magazines you read. I said, chess. You'll catch cold. She says, they never are chess. Chess in their birthday suits, chess with no clothes on, that sort of chess. Chess men. And I said, go back to bed. And turn your blankets off. Next morning, she's right as rain. She's forgotten it. She doesn't mention it anyway. And so we're just leaving the house when she says, I do love you, Graham. And I said, I love you too. And she says, anyway, he had an hearing aid. What's on the agenda for today? And I said, well, I thought we'd take a little ride out to Ripon. And she goes, oh, that's nice. We could go into the cathedral. We like old buildings, don't we? You and me. And she put her on. Goodbye.